this and claim your copy tomorrow morning. Well, there's also a little bit of a swap in the sessions. We want to have one on the power and the art of storytelling, but our storytelling expert is going to be here in the next few minutes, so maybe we can have the next session right now. And it is a session that many of you have waited for, and we have evidence. We have evidence probably in the form of tweets. And aptly, she is somebody who is an expert in social media. Her book has been, there's been a buzz in the social media, even on her book as well. She's a seasoned professional with over 2 decades of professional experience. The books that she has authored as well as co-authored are many, but she's best known for her books like The New PR Toolkit, PR 2.0, New Media, New Tools, New Audiences, and the very acclaimed Putting the Public Back in Public Relations. Please have a round of applause as we welcome Deirdre Breckenridge, Honorary Trustee Secretary. She's here with her husband Mark. She's out with the latest book, Social Media and Public Relations, 8 new practices for the PR professional. She's come after a 27-hour journey, is it right? Yeah. And I guess 2 a.m. this morning you logged into Pondicherry. I'm surprised she's really awake and smiling as she speaks to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Everybody, and I will cherish every single moment and memory and tell all my friends about it on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn and all those fun places we can. But I want to take a moment to thank the Promise Foundation and Edelman India as well for allowing me to come and getting me here. So we have a tremendous amount of information to learn. I do have a lot in my presentation. I hope to overwhelm you in the most beneficial way. Anything that you can't see on a slide or have questions about, you can always ask me, but my material is available on my blog, deirdrebreckenridge.com, and I'll also have the presentation available as well. So what I wanted to bring today was a talk about its change, and that scares people. So what I like to say is that public relations has expanded. And when somebody asked me years ago, why are you using social media so much? Why are you always on Facebook or Twitter? And when I got to the core of it, it's because public relations has expanded. That's a tremendous opportunity for all of us in this room and for all of our colleagues industry-wide. And we're realizing that we're learning new competencies. I came across a worldwide study, a small study, that said employers looking to hire PR professionals, young professionals going into the field, guess what? One of the strongest skills, competencies is it's information technology. It's understanding new media and navigating new tools and resources and platforms. It's also this new approach that we're taking, understanding that we have a very dynamic public, so that's why I have putting the public back in public relations, but mostly understanding we need a new approach, and social media allows us to have a more strategic approach. And lastly, all of these things together raises the bar for PR. That's what we need to do in the eyes of our executives, as well as in the eyes of the public. So what I'm bringing to you today is to talk about new opportunities, roles and responsibilities, and how you can become recognized as a part of my new book, Social Media and Public Relations, 8 New Practices for the PR Professional. So I'm going to talk about those practices, and you can think about what can you bring to your organizations, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're an agency, or you're in a corporation. So that's where we're going to start. However, where did it start is with change with the media. That's the first thing that I realized was that, as any public relations professional would do, I tried to be logical, and this is back in 2003 when we started to see the media change. I tried to put things in neat little boxes. So what I tried to do was to say, okay, in the orange box is all my more traditional media, and in the green box is the new digital and social media. Well, guess what? That's not how it works, because no matter what we want to say from our companies or our messages, it's not how people want to receive them. So very quickly, I learned that it's a nice, healthy media mix, and that's the best way that our consumers, we have to think about them. And whether it's the interactive living room, or it's augmented reality, or it's social media, we have to become meaningful resources and figure out where they are and how to better serve their needs. But what I also found out quickly through my clients was that this is a social chart, a social map, which says that the brand is in the middle. And suddenly, you're in a company, and one day you wake up, and you have several types of social networks that your company is participating on. You have several types of micromedia. You have all different video channels. And who's managing the process? You're in communications, yet everybody in your company is talking. And pages are popping up, new properties, new Twitter feeds, and you're saying, where's the policy? And how are we getting the right information out? And is our brand voice being fragmented? Whew, that's a lot. So, when you think of what it takes to put together a good public relations and social media program, you have to make a conscious decision. And here's where I'm going to ask you a question. I really want you to think about it. I'll say the question first, and then I'll explain it. Do you want to finish familiar? This is a really important question. Take it to your heart, okay? Think about where you started, and think about where you're going to finish. I have a story, it's personal to me, of a very dear professional who worked in my agency years ago. His name was Gary, and he was one of the most fantastic, smartest, astute public relations professionals I've ever met. Gary, at my agency, if there was a careful, sensitive message that needed to be crafted, Gary could do it. If there was a story that needed to be placed in major media, top tier, Gary could do it. He was a negotiator, he was a critical thinker. However, Gary was 30 years senior in public relations, and it was at the time when my agency was changing. And we were pretty much getting involved with blogs and social networking and RSS feeds. And it was a Friday, we just had a big staff meeting, we were all excited about public relations and social media. And Gary came into my office, it was after 5 o'clock, and he handed me his resignation letter. And I read it, and of course I accepted it with a heavy heart, and I asked him why. And he said, because I want to finish familiar. And what he was trying to tell me was that he was not going to take that leap into social, into the next type of communication, no matter what that's going to be. Maybe it's social media today, we don't know where it's going tomorrow, but he really did want to finish familiar, and I can respect that. I shook his hand, I looked him in the eyes, and I wished him luck. I'm actually still in touch with him. But it made me think about myself, and that's why I ask all of you, do you want to finish familiar? I know that I don't, and I've been pushing the envelope ever since 2003. So, with that, let's move forward. I also wanted to remind all of you that as public relations professionals, believe it or not, we are socially career-minded. Whether you knew it or not, this is an infographic that was taken from LinkedIn and Jeremiah Aoye's Altimeter Group. It was a study that was done. And whether you can see the numbers or not, I'll let you know that the characteristics of the socially career-minded person matches the PR professional. We are multitaskers. We know how to be liaisons across the organization. We can work cross-functionally. We also are very customer-centric, or customer-focused, or customer service. And we know how to report ROI to executives. Therefore, it's our nature. It's a part of us. And it's all over our organization. So there's all different levels in the organization. From the senior level who want we're thought leaders. We should be blogging. We need to be on LinkedIn. There's the marketing folks who pretty much say, we've got all this great content. How are we going to get out there? And how can we drive people to the website? And then we have PR professionals saying, public is talking, we need to be listening, we need to be responding. We have sales professionals in our organization saying, wow, social media, what a great opportunity to network from virtual to physical, to shake a hand and close a deal. And you also have the HR professionals knowing that the best talent out there, the future, are using social media. Within every level of our organization is participation. And that's why we, as the communicators, have to figure out a way to make this work together. So I'm going to show you a slide, not to frighten anyone, but this is not an organizational chart. This is a way of making sense of how to bring it into your organization and how to make it work from the very small to the large. And if you notice in the orange is hybrid. Let me just preface by saying the hybrid professional, the communications professional, PR professional, who is hybrid, takes the very best of the past forward with us. We don't change our ethics or our views. We know we have to measure, we have to be accountable, we have to be social. We have to make sure we have social responsibility. However, we realize when we step into the hybrid box, I just stepped in, we are working with our marketing brothers around us. So we know we're working with marketing and advertising, the brand professionals. And why? Because we're the communicators. We've always been protecting the brand. Now out on social media, it's even more fragmented. And we're working with our digital creatives, and we're doing more videos, and we're thinking about search engine optimization and things we've never thought about before. If somebody had said to me search engine optimization 10, 12 years ago, I would have said that's somebody else's job, not mine. Today, I know that I have to understand that and speak a new language. But it goes even farther because we have to be touching all areas of the organization. So, and you'll see through the practices different ways that we do. When we're working on a social media policy, we're touching HR. We're touching perhaps our IT team. We're touching legal. There's different ways that we have to connect these pieces. But we stand in that box and work our way out. And it's very important because as we do this, this chart shows you when you take social media into your practice, into your roles and responsibilities, you sort of start on the bottom. We knew nothing about social media. We weren't practicing. We moved it up to the next box where suddenly we're learning social media and we're also still participating in traditional media and our digital, and then we take it up another notch. All of a sudden, we understand website analytics, SEO, new technologies, new platforms. That's when we start talking to other marketing areas because we understand what they're doing and we're coordinating with them. Step it up another notch. We're working cross-functionally with other departments to the top notch. When we can go all of those steps and we're connected, that means we secure our seat at the boardroom table. Not that we shouldn't have been there before, we always should have been there. And if we're not, this is certainly a way to get there. Feeling the pains and understanding the communication through social media as it goes across the organization makes us work up to the top. So why do we have to do this and how are we going to guide the organization? Well, one reason why is because when you look at social media, this is just a benchmark from 2010, to say that less companies are banning social media. So this is at 39%. You know what? More companies are opening up the social media floodgates, and that number will be less. It used to always be IT and legal would ban social media. We're finding more worldwide that is opening up, and one of the concerns, and this is what also concerns us, is the accountability, the measurement. Most companies worldwide still have a concern, and the number is about 63% still feel that they're not properly managing and measuring social media. That's where we can make sure that all of our communications and the metrics that we're using track back to our objectives, and we can be accountable and really make our programs effective. So that's where the 8 practices come into play. And I'm going to name them first, and then we're going to run through them, show you some examples, and hopefully you'll have lots of questions. Okay, so when it comes to the new practices, we take a look at the diagram. The first one is the PR policy maker. The second new practice is the internal collaboration generator. The third is the PR technology tester. That's one of my favorites. We have number 4 is the comms organizer. Number 5 is the pre-crisis doctor. Number 6 is the relationship analyzer, something very familiar in PR is relationships. Number 7 is the reputation task force member. And 8, I always say the best for last, is the master of the metrics. All right, are you ready? Louder, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, I'm ready too. So, first one is the PR policy maker. This is my social media strategy wheel. And just like any strategic practice that you're going to have, it always starts with your discovery, your goals, your objectives, your research, your budget, and then it kind of works out into we need to monitor, we need to understand our channels, we are creating new communication and our content and optimization, we have to understand engagement and measurement. But for this practice, we start in the middle, because whenever we do our planning, that's when we think about our policy. Our social media policy is so important. And it's not just once that you do it, it's every time you do your communications planning, you have to revise your social media policy. So if you were spearheading a policy for your organization, or perhaps it's not going to be you alone, as a matter of fact, you have to work on a team of people because no one owns social media, and I think we all understand that. It starts with a core team. So in the very center of this diagram is the core team. That's the visionaries, the strategic planners for social media. PR has to be on that team. Public relations is on that team. Marketing could be on that team. I've put teams together where it's PR, marketing, web. I've also had IT on that team, depending on the organization. And that team is the team that starts to think about the policy objectives. What are we trying to achieve in our policy? What areas need to be covered? And as you figure that out, you pull from another area within your company called coalition. These are the departments, because we know that when it comes to HR and our policy, I can't write it. I'm the PR professional. I have to call someone from HR. When it comes to legal, should the PR professionals be writing anything legal regarding the policy? Absolutely not. You pull in from the legal department. Pull legal in very early, because that's the difference between waiting for your policy to be accepted within a year's time and within a much shorter time frame. So this just gives you a general idea about how your policy and who works on it. It also starts with an audit. This is a really interesting exercise. The audit is for strategic planning in general, taking a look at your Facebook pages, your Twitter pages, and going through this process to say, okay, are we adhering to brand guidelines on our Twitter profiles? Do our Facebook pages represent our brands? Is our brand voice? Is it being upheld? How frequently are we communicating? What type of content are we using? How are we measuring? Once we do an audit of this information, chances are you'll find out very quickly holes and liabilities. That's your fix, and that's going to take shape in a policy. And if you were asked, after you did this exercise, to actually put a policy together, that's your audit in a full view. You probably would list all of the issues that you found on the left-hand side and all of the things that you need, and then you would have to compare it to other best practice policies. So if somebody asked you right now, could you write a social media policy? If you had a small organization, or maybe you're in a larger one, you didn't know where to start, best practice is always to compare to what's out there. And once you do that, looking at all the things that you've uncovered from your audit versus similar companies in your industry, or maybe it has a company has a similar culture, you look at their policies to see what's covered and go through a yes/no process to say these are the areas that we need to cover as well. And your policy will take shape. Policy making is extremely important. It's not to stifle the communication, it's to guide it, it's to direct it within your own organization as well as for the public. And these are just some of the other roles and responsibilities of the PR policymaker, from getting that core team together, setting what the objectives are, educating on your policy, launching it, maintaining it. There's several practices involved. Okay, your internal collaboration generator. This is really when you understand that communications, and we do, starts on the inside. How do we communicate externally if we're not all on the same page with our teams or the many teams that we work on? And I do have to say that in my book, Robert, I want to mention that Michael Brito did an interview with me saying how great Edelman is with teams collaborating internally using Basecamp and Yammer. So it's really important. I'll talk a little bit about that. As an internal collaboration generator, you realize that you need to use technology and social media inside your company in order to have